This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Come, let us explore how breathwork could ruin your meditation, followed by meditating like a Jedi. An individual on Reddit reached out and asked a very insightful, prescient question. They asked, hey, could the use of pranayama or any other form of breath work as a preliminary practice to meditation be a form of cheating? That's an excellent question. It comes down to your intention. Are you doing it because you feel tired and you don't feel like you can physically sit for the length of your meditation? Or are you doing it because you want to suppress your mind's thoughts and transform your mind into a blank? If the answer was number one, you're doing it because you don't have enough energy, then I would recommend you remember that the third enlightenment factor is energy, and that we must strategically work with the variables in our life that affect our vitality. What could some of those variables be? Well, that could be sleep hygiene. Many years ago, I read a book that said the most productive sleep occurs prior to midnight. So when are you going to sleep? Um, in addition to that, how long are you sleeping? In addition to that, are you getting enough sunshine, fresh air, um, exercise? Are you drinking enough water? And are you eating a whole food vegan diet? All these things team up to enhance our vitality. It's been my experience as someone who has multiple disabilities that using cheats before I meditate, cheats like working out or cheats like breath work, they wind up biting us in the ass. When I was a kid, back in the 70s, there was a series of commercials for auto parts. And the mechanic would say, well, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Similarly, when our body doesn't want to sit in meditation or walk in meditation, then give it the rest it desires. This is incredibly important. Better to miss a meditation session and meet your body's needs than rigidly and perfectionistically stick to a meditation schedule, all the while undermining your health. That could create serious problems. Additionally, back in the 80s, when I was in college, I learned in Psych 101 of the idea of a clinical aversion. For instance, you eat a piece of food that normally you like, but this time it's contaminated and you get stomach poisoning and you wind up vomiting your brains out. In the future, you'll probably feel an emotional aversion or a physical aversion to that same food that was previously one of your favorites. The same thing can happen with meditation. When we gut it out in our meditation, we can develop a physical or an emotional aversion to the practice. It is very beneficial to take a hedonistic approach. We are wired to respond to pleasure. The more pleasurable we make our meditation, the more likely we are to practice it. Now let's explore the second variable. Through no fault of their own, most of us have received sometimes misinformation and sometimes disinformation about meditation. We've been told that the goal of meditation is to still our mind, and we've been told that we must have no thoughts or only one thought, i.e. our breath. No, that's a huge mistake. According to the teachings attributed to the Buddha, the path of enlightenment is eightfold. The seventh fold of the path is mindfulness. And the eightfold of the path is meditation. And there is so much confusion surrounding them that it is best dispelled by viewing the whole Mishigas through the metaphoric lens of neuroscience. That's exactly what I'd like to do right now. When we follow the terrible advice to actively focus or actively analyze, the only parts of our brain capable of performing those particular functions are our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex. When these are overused, overworked, we cannot help but begin presenting with at least some symptoms of depression, no less triggering our amygdala, which is the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Now, since most of us want less anxiety and less aggression, this path of actively focusing on one thing or no thing is going to drag us in the opposite direction. Fortunately, neither the prefrontal cortex nor the amygdala constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, our spinal cord, whose fancy name is the autonomic nervous system. When we passively cooperate with both facets of our autonomic nervous system, the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed. And the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated, which is fabulous. The question now remains, how do we do this after a lifetime of being conditioned to being a quote-unquote go-getter and making things happen? How do we passively cooperate with this mysterious region of our central nervous system that the fancy people call an autonomic nervous system? It's totally simple. The autonomic nervous system can be thought of having two components. We're going to start with the first component. The key to mindfulness, and let me rephrase that. I'm going to start with the first component that is integral to the practice of mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, whose fancy description would be the nexus of our sympathetic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. All of them, everything from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. Now that we understand the neurological aspect of it, how do we do it? What is our rule of thumb? Simple. The key to watching the antics of mind is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our chest swell with breath. But what do we do with that which we noticed? That brings us to the subject of meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access both the tippy top and the very bottom, the attic and the basement of that exact same spinal cord. These two extremes, together as a team, could be described as the nexus of our parasympathetic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to relax during our exhalation to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. In fact, it could help us to feel that those things were as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Any good English teacher could remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the head. And so the very great irony is that the mysteries of emptiness or no self are solved by our fourth grade English teacher. They're just metaphors who can be clarified by converting them back into similes. So now that we understand the neuroscience behind meditation, let's explore the rule of thumb. The key to resting in the aspect of mind that could fleetingly feel non-graspable is to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. What is that? What is that mishigas? What has that to do with breathwork? Simple. We can either indulge our controlling tendencies to force our body and brain to act in a certain way, or we can passively and gently allow our body to do what it has evolved to do. The second is sustainable. Upon life's paths, we are continually faced with choices. Do we choose the path of groovy Qui-Gon Jinn or grumpy Mace Windu? Do we choose to be flexible or rigid, loving or fearful, rational or superstitious, laid back or controlling, egalitarian or elitist, lucid or cryptic, cooperative or competitive, kind or cruel? These are two different paths that rely on two different facets of our neurology that will have dramatically different effects on our life. If you've found me on the internet, you probably want to be more like Qui-Gon Jinn. You probably want to be more flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Congratulations. The key to do that is to cooperate with our autonomic nervous system using the two rules of thumbs that I just gave you. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you.